Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University. Let's take a look at how to write the course APA formatted research paper, Part 2, using Dr. Steve's APA template. If you download my APA Word template, the majority of the formatting as suggested by APA will be handled for you. Now just realize you don't have to use this resource, but if you don't, then you must ensure that you followed all of the APA formatting conventions. So let's begin with the title page. First of all, APA says on the title page, use the header of the word processor to both put the running head as well as the page numbering. So in the running head on page number 1 of the document, we'll actually put the word running head. And then we're going to put in all capital letters about the first 50 characters of the title, which means you may have to abbreviate your title. And then put the page number in the upper right-hand corner. Further down on this title page, all we put is the title of the paper, your name, and then your university or affiliation. You don't need the date or any other kinds of information. Now, of course, if you're in a course with a professor who says, please include this additional information, then you put it here. Otherwise, strict APA says title, name, and university. The second page of the paper will be an abstract. Now, keep in mind, you cannot write the abstract until you have written the entire paper. Starting on the second page of the document, well, now, once again, in the header, we're going to include a running head. Notice we've taken out the word running head here. And from this point on in the paper, we're just going to have the title listed here, or again, an abbreviated title if the title is too long, and the page number will once again be in the upper right-hand corner. When you do write the abstract, that's going to be a brief paragraph that highlights and briefly discusses what the paper is going to be about. APA then says in another paragraph underneath, list keywords that will be associated with search engines so that people can locate your work if it ends up being posted online. Page number 3 will begin the actual body of the paper. Now keep in mind that we said instead of the word introduction, the first heading from the outline will, according to the latest standards of APA, will be the title of your paper. So there will be the title, but that's actually the introduction. And we're going to continue, and we're going to type headings into the paper, and then we're going to make sure that we use citations as we write the paper. The last page of the paper is going to be your reference page, also known as a bibliography. On this page, you're going to include all of the works that you have cited throughout the paper. Notice that APA asks for them to be formatted as hanging indented paragraphs, meaning that the first line juts out over to the left margin, and every other line in each paragraph will be indented. Then, APA asks us to alphabetize by the author's name all of these references. Again, if you use my APA template, except for the alphabetizing, everything else, formatting-wise, will be handled for you. Now, let's take a look at one other quick tool in our APA template, and then let's get a demonstration of how to use the template. Before I demonstrate how to use the APA Word template to write the course research paper, let me show you a trick or the underlying piece that is the heart of making this template work. A lot of times in Word, people are not tuned into the Style toolbar. So here in the Home tab, we have something called the Styles, and if you notice, here there are different styles listed that maybe you haven't seen before. So let me show you how this works. Here I have my introduction, which APA now says make this type your title here of the paper, if I take this drop-down arrow, I can see more styles. And if I take this little arrow on the bottom that opens up the dialog for styles, I can see all of these. All of these that say APA are styles that I've created specifically for use within this template. So notice that we've got levels of headings, and that refers to the headings level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now for our paper, and for most purposes, people end up using just APA level 1. But should you need a second level, like a subheading, then that would be level 2, and so on, level 3 if needed, and so forth. So we're going to look at the level 1. APA body text, which simply means it's a paragraph that's formatted like APA. We've got a block quote, which APA says if you're going to quote something and it's going to be about 45 words or more, put it in its own paragraph. Well, there's a format for that. And I've got formats for reference entries, for the abstract page, and so on. Here's how it works. I've highlighted this text, which is going to be the first heading in the paper, the introduction. If I wanted to make this body text, I just click on it. And there it is. Notice that it's indented, it's Times New Roman 12, it's everything in terms of formatting that APA asks. If I want to make this a level 1, there it is. If I want to make it a level 2, then there it is. If I'm going to go back to level 1 because that's what we're going to use for the headings. We're going to have level 1 headings. If I highlight another paragraph, right now that's body text. If I wanted to make that a block quote, notice how all the formatting changes. If I wanted to make that an entry on the reference page, notice how it's now hanging indent with all the other lines indented. So basically I'm going to go up here and say body text, block quote if needed, or APA level 1. The only thing I suggest is do not go in, I'm going to close this for a moment, and highlight and say, okay, I'm going to go up to format paragraph and change how this paragraph looks. Don't do that if you're using the style toolbar, because it's going to give you an option. Is that only for this paragraph, or are you going to apply that to all paragraphs of the same style? In other words, you have the option of messing up the template and redefining what the APA standards are like. So don't do that. Simply go into this dialog, or some of those you can see right up here. Some of the last ones I've used. There's the block quote, there's the APA body text, there's the level 1 heading. If you can find them up here, and notice how it changes in the text immediately, you can grab it right from here if you choose. Now that you've seen that, let me demonstrate how to use this template to write the course paper. Remember that on my Help with APA web pages, I have provided the APA template for you to use. So I've now opened the APA template from that page. So when I look at the template, it's 4 pages long, and that gives the start to develop the paper. So on the very top of the first page, it says running head, : So leave that there. I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to type my title in all capital letters. Remember, your title should be in the form of a question. So in all caps, I'll put my caps lock on. Is distance learning effective in the classroom? Now, if my title is very long, like for example, if it starts going down into the second line, at that point, just shorten the title for the purpose of the running head. And notice it says page 1 to be automatically displayed up here on the first page in the upper right-hand corner. I've closed my header. Now I'm going to type the title of the paper in upper and lowercase letters, which is known as title case. Is distance learning effective in the classroom? Then my name goes here, so I would type it there, and then it says the name of your university, your affiliation. Now on the second page, we have the abstract. So this is all set to type that. Here we type the paragraph right here. Here's where we're going to type those key words separated by commas. Keep in mind that we don't do the abstract until the body of the paper is done, because you don't know everything to write there just yet. Notice that on the second page in the header, it now says type your title in all caps. So once again, I'm going to go up and do that. The reason why we have to do that is APA says on the first page only, the word running head should appear. So I'm going to put my cap lock on, and once again, I'm going to type this in as distance learning, effective in the classroom. I'll close the header. All right, that page I'll do a little bit later. Now, the third page 3 is now the first page of the body. So I'm going to highlight the very first heading, and I'm going to make this my introduction. Now, in the old days, you would have typed the word introduction here. Whoops, I went a little too far. In the old days, I would have typed introduction. But APA now says, well, everybody understands the very first heading is the introduction. So instead of typing introduction, I'm going to type my title of the paper one more time. Effective in the classroom. Okay, so there I have it. This will now actually be the introduction, the introductory paragraphs. Now let me pause for a moment. In Word, we have something called, in the Home tab of the ribbon, we've got the Style toolbar. And you can see some styles here. And notice, as I roll over these styles, notice how my first heading is now changing in different ways. I can catch some of the styles right up here, or notice this little dialogue arrow. I'm going to click on that, and that opens all the styles that are prepared for this document in this template. Now I left, as I created these, I left some of the basic ones here, but the ones that we're going to concentrate on are the ones that start with the letters APA. So here's, if you want to format that APA abstract paragraph, here it is. It's already formatted, but it's set to use. A block quote, meaning if you're going to quote something, a source, you're going to use more than about 45 words. Then we've got level 1 through 5. Now, for our outline, and for the most part, we're just going to use level 1. Level 2 would mean a subheading under the first heading. So I've made this robust in that you can use this for other courses, and I've got all 5 levels of heading here. But for this paper, and really for a lot of things you're going to do throughout your career, level 1 will be quite enough. And when I click on the next paragraph, notice it's now highlighted APA body text. So if I click on body text, immediately it indents the first line, it double spaces the paragraph, and it sets up the font to be Times New Roman and 12. So this is now set up to look acceptable according to APA standards. Now, one thing that I don't want to do when I'm using these styles up here, and again you could catch some of them right up here in the ribbon in the style grouping, one thing I don't want to do is go in and say, all right, let me format paragraph now. Let me go in and change some of these things. No, don't do that. Because if you do, you run the risk of changing this style up here. So in other words, whatever changes you effect may now take place in all places where you use that style, where you invoke it. So don't do that. No format paragraph, no format font if you're using these styles. So at this point, this is my template. I'm going to erase this material because I have a number of things here that are examples to simply lead somebody through the template if they don't have the benefit of hearing me speak about it in class. So at this point, there's my introduction. I'm going to hit enter in Word. That creates a new paragraph marker. I can show that right there. And now I'm going to type my second heading. So now I'm typing my outline. What is distance learning? advantages of distance learning. And being an honest lawyer, because I said that writing a paper is kind of like being a lawyer trying to prove a case, but I'm going to be an honest lawyer, meaning if I find trying to prove the case that there are many advantages, but maybe there are some disadvantages as well, and I'm free to talk about that. If I want to include a section where I'm discussing my own personal experience in this area, then I would put a discussion section in, and then finally a conclusion section. Okay, so here's my outline. Now, if I wanted to start typing something, and one place I'm not going to start yet will be the introduction or the conclusion. Those two we hold until later, not until the rest of the body of this paper is all complete, because I won't know what to write in terms of how to introduce it and how to conclude it, or how to talk about it in the abstract. So those three things I leave alone until I'm finished with the paper. Now, I've got another document open here, and on my Help with APA page, I have this example. So here I have some notes that I've taken from articles that I've read. So at this point, I'm going to go and I'm going to create citations. So this is Drucker and, notice I use that ampersand, Schwartz, comma, and the year of publication. Notice that I put it inside of the sentence before the period. Once I create that citation, copy, and I'm going to paste that throughout the notes that I have generated in this section. Well, now here I have a larger quote, and this may have to become a block quote should I use this, because there's quite a few words here. If I directly quote, and we said typically you do not do that in a research paper, except in my estimation at two different times. Number one, if you're quoting a definition, and number two, if you are trying to capture the words from someone who spoke something so powerfully or uniquely that you absolutely want to capture every single word of it, then I would directly quote. Notice I've created the citation as usual. Now I'm going to put a page number in where I retrieve that quote. So only put a page number if you're doing a direct quote. Notice in my notes, if I gained any insights, now I'm not going to highlight and cite myself throughout the paper, but I just made a note to myself that this is my thought, and it didn't come from Drucker and Schwartz. These thoughts that I'm generating now help formulate some of the other parts of the body that I'm going to fill out. So here are my thoughts as I go through, and that'll help me write the paper a whole lot better. This may help me in the conclusion, for example. This may help me as I start to, when I do highlight something from this one of these sources, maybe this is another insight I've gained, and it allows me to talk a little more about it. Now, here I have already done that with I've created these citations throughout this whole document. Now I'm going to take these. Right now I'm just arbitrarily doing these. I'm going to cut and paste these. I'm going to move to the other document. I go back to my template, and I look at that first one, and let's say that represents an advantage of distance learning. Now it may not. I'm just kind of choosing them at random at this point. Once I paste a note in, well, it's just a note. So when I want to turn this into an actual paragraph, APA body text, there it is. And I'm ready for the next paragraph. So let me go back to my notes page, and I go in and I say, oh, here's an advantage. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to the template, and there's an advantage. Again, when I want to, and I could do this now, or I could do it at the end, go up and click on the style body text. It's all set to go. There is my citation, and everything's looking good. Now, at this point, that's a good start. Now, I would continue to do that, and when I did that and pasted all those notes in, except for discussion, conclusion, or introduction, or the abstract, I would have a lot of the paper, the most of it, pretty much written. So the paper does write itself. But now it's just a bunch of disjunct notes. So let me go in and let me start off a section with a very good opening sentence. So let me start the first paragraph in this section. There are many advantages to using distance learning as part of the classroom. One advantage is, so notice how I started this whole section with a good opening sentence, and now I lead in with that transition. One advantage is, and now I may have to change the words in this note just a little bit here. But other than that, this is ready to go. Now, new paragraph, a new note. Let me say a second advantage is. If I'm ready for my next note, I might start that by saying another advantage that has been noted is, and I'll lead right into my third note. And I would do the same thing in the other sections of my paper. Now, when I come to my final page, I've got my references. So let me go back to my notes, and here I've got one here. So let me go back to the template and let me paste my first reference in. Now, once again, it came in however it was originally formatted. Let me now go to the style bar, and if I open the little dialog, I can find APA reference entry. There it is, and it is now ready to go. It's formatted as a hanging indent. Let me go out and get one more, and I would do this with all of them. I'm going to grab one more entry, and I'm going to paste it in here. And once again, I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to go up to, if I don't see it up here, and I don't, I'm going to open that little dialog. Reference entry, there it is. It's ready to go. Final step is, I'm going to highlight these paragraphs. I'm going to go in Word to A to Z, sort text paragraph, and I'm going to sort it ascending, which means A through Z. Say OK, and now if I had highlighted all of the references that I had, they are now alphabetized. One final note here. When I go back into the paper, make sure that, notice I'm not directly quoting any of the authors. Again, I'm only going to directly quote if it's a definition or if it's something I absolutely have to capture the words and the way that it was spoken by that author. Otherwise, I'm putting everything in my own words. So paraphrasing. And again, if you've followed my method of writing the paper, you already had these notes. You took notes and you already put them in your own words. Also, notice how I put it in the present tense. My notes are saying, like, Howard County Library runs. It's all happening. It's all now. So I don't put past tense items here. So notice that I did that. Also notice that I'm not talking about, first of all, I am talking about the advantages, and I'm pulling them out. I'm like a lawyer, and I'm explaining these things. So I'm saying there are many advantages. One advantage is this, and another advantage is that, and then I'm pointing out where they come from. Notice that I am not going in and saying, now I have one article that I read was something by Drucker and Schwartz. So Drucker and Schwartz talk about blah, 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 and go in and basically Paul Parrot their article. Notice that I didn't even, in this case, I didn't even take two items from Drucker and Schwartz. I drew one out of there. Now, maybe I'll find another one. But the point is, the list of advantages is my list of advantages. And my list is coming from a bunch of different sources. What some people tend to do, which is incorrect, would be to start talking about the articles. One article that I read dealt with such and such, or one article that I read presented 5 different advantages to distance learning. I don't want to do that. I'm a lawyer. I'm hunting. I'm searching. I'm looking for a list of advantages that I find that I find backed up in different places. Another thing to note is, notice that I did not come out and say, like in this case, a third advantage is, and just make something up and say, oh, I think it's a very good experience, and so on, and then put a period there. No, this is a research paper. So if I'm going to make that statement, whatever it is, I'm going to have to find some backup for this. So when I read Cummings, 1996, I found that Cummings did support that and say, according to Cummings' research, according to Cummings' article, he supports this as well. So notice I'm not making any wild claims. There's not a chance here, hopefully, for fake news, if you will, because I have to back up all the things that I say with some research. That's how you do a research paper. You're now ready to write our course research paper formatted in APA style. At this point, you can write the entire paper minus certain areas: the introduction, the conclusion, and the abstract. We'll give you some time to work on this part, the main body of the paper, and then I'll deal with how to quickly write an introduction, a conclusion, and then an abstract as well. So much success in writing the paper, and we'll see you in class.